Let's now practice graphing a couple of our sines and cosines depending upon how they are altered and shifted and moved around. When I graph these, I tend to look and base everything off of the 5 points that I know. So in my normal period, if I'm unshifted for a sine function, with this is pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2, I know 5 points. I know I start at 0, I go up to 1, I come down to 0, I go down to -1, and I come back to 0. If I have those 5 points, I can graph a sine function. The same thing happens with cosine. I'm going to be at 1, it's going to come to 0, -1, 0, and back up to 1. So as long as I have those 5, I can kind of sketch a graph of it. So based on my idea that I can, if I have those 5 points, I can sketch one period of my function, we're going to look at some of these equations. So what I know is that my amplitude is 2, and I am shifted down 3. That's what this problem is giving me. So the down 3 part I can handle. Okay. There is no b, so my traditional period is 2 pi. So let's just draw this as pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and then 2 pi. So I'm going to draw one period. Now, what it means to be an amplitude is, and our normal amplitude is going by 1. So we're 1 above and we are 1 below. So with an amplitude of 2, that means we are going to actually take this and we're now going to have 2 above. So if I've shifted down 3, I normally would have started at 0, 0, but I'm going to start at 0, 3. I'm going to have an amplitude of 2. So at 1/2, when I normally would be at 1, I'm going to be 2 higher than where I started at. So if I kind of started, almost treat this middle axis as kind of where everything's, you can draw it in if you need to so you can see, but that's going to be kind of our center. So I have a point at 0, 3, I'm 2 above, and I need to come back onto that axis. I now need to be 2 below, and then I'm going to come back to the axis. So there's the sine graph for 2 sine of x minus 3. Okay. Let's look at the cosine. So if I look at this next picture, I now have an amplitude of 3, and I am shifting to the right pi over 2. So let's kind of map out what I want to have. So if I'm at pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, 2 pi, and 5 pi over 2. I'm now going to draw my graph. Instead of from 0 to 2 pi, I'm shifting and starting everything at pi over 2, so then I'll go to 5 pi over 2. Now I'm cosine, so I normally would start up at 1, but my amplitude is 3. So since cosine would be at 1, I'm actually going to start at 3. If you need to draw in your kind of imaginary axis that is going to be your center, you can. So I'm starting at 3. I would go to 0. I'm going to go to -3 instead of -1. I'm going to come back to 0, and I'm going to go up to +3. So I'm going to draw my graph like there's the one period of it. Now that would connect every other place then as well, if I were to draw more than just one period of it. One last problem here. You see I have this in the form of bx minus bh. So I have to first factor out that b and understand that I'm actually going to have x minus pi over 4. So I'm actually shifting over to the right only pi over 4. So I have a right shift of pi over 4 instead of pi. and my b is 4, so my period is going to be 2 pi over 4. So my period is going to be pi over 2. So it's only going to take me pi over 2 to get through my full cycle for cosine. So I'm really going to have to label my graph correctly so you can see what's going on. So if I'm going to be pi over 2, I'm going to want to divide this into pi over 4 and then pi over 8. So let's have pi over 4. So the pi over 2 would be my full pi. So this is going to be pi over 4. And I'm going to have pi over 8 and 3 pi over 8 as well. Now I'm shifted to the right pi over 4. So I'm actually going to start here. So I need to add another 5 pi over 8. And then this would be 3 pi over 4 to get my full period in. So there's no amplitude change, there's no up or down change. So I'm starting at pi over 4 since I shifted to the right. And so I'm starting at 1, 0, -1, 0, and +1. And I would draw my cosine as follows.